Welcome to Bipolar Talks, the place where we hold space for honest conversations about mental health, lived experience, and understanding the ups and downs of bipolar disorder. Thank you for mindfully joining us today. Before we begin, if you find value in what we share, we gently ask you to like, comment, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who may need it. Your support helps break the stigma and brings these conversations to more ears and hearts. Today's episode is a deeply personal and often misunderstood journey. We're diving into what it's like to be hospitalized for mania. What does it really feel like to be hospitalized for mania? From the chaotic energy of manic episodes to the reality of locked psychiatric wards, this episode offers a vulnerable, honest, and informative look into the signs that lead to psychiatric hospitalization, what happens inside a mental hospital during a manic episode, how insight returns after mania begins to fade, the emotional impact after discharge, what support, healing, and recovery can look like. Whether you're living with bipolar I disorder, supporting a loved one, or simply trying to understand, this episode brings a human voice to a clinical label. This isn't just a clinical overview, it's a story, a window into the chaos, confusion, and eventual clarity that can come from a manic episode severe enough to require psychiatric hospitalization. So whether you're here because you've lived it, love someone who has, or you're just curious about the human experience behind the diagnosis, we invite you to listen with presence, compassion, and curiosity. Let's begin. It usually starts subtly, a burst of energy, an idea that feels unusually brilliant, maybe a sense that the world suddenly makes sense, or that you've discovered your true purpose, and it's burning so brightly in your chest you can't sleep. People often describe this early manic stage as exhilarating, productive, euphoric. But it rarely stays that way. For many of us with bipolar I disorder, there's a tipping point when the grandiosity becomes delusion, when the confidence becomes recklessness, and when the high-speed thoughts start speaking out loud in pressured, unstoppable waves. You might stop eating. You might not sleep for days. You might start seeing patterns or signs that others insist aren't there. And here's the truth. By the time someone reaches hospitalization, it's usually because the mania has taken control. Family, friends, coworkers, someone notices. Or maybe the person experiencing mania does something dangerous. Maybe the police get involved. Maybe it's voluntary. Maybe it's not. That transition from mania to hospitalization is where things get real. For many, the moment of hospitalization doesn't feel like a choice. Feels like a collision. You might be in the back of a police car, still talking fast, still believing you're on a mission. You might be escorted by concerned parents or a partner, not understanding why they're crying. You might arrive in handcuffs, or barefoot, or shouting. What's nearly universal is the sense of confusion and disconnection. Psychiatric emergency rooms don't feel like regular ERs. You might be strip searched. Your belongings gone. Laces removed. No phones. No contact. It's disorienting, especially when you're manic. The world suddenly slows you down by force. And even if you've been there before, it never feels easy. Once admitted, you enter a place that feels both sterile and surreal. Psych wards are not like the movies, but they also kind of are. There are daily routines, group therapy, medication times, observation windows, sometimes padded rooms, sometimes screams. You might meet people in psychosis, people detoxing from substances, people who seem eerily calm, and of course people like you, people caught in mania's grip. But here's the thing. You don't always believe you belong there. In mania, insight is often gone. You may think the hospital is trying to silence your truth. You might believe the nurses are working against you. You might refuse medication. You might plan an escape. And yet slowly things begin to shift. For most patients, it takes days or even weeks before the mind begins to slow. The first few days might be filled with confrontation, staff enforcing limits, group sessions that feel irrelevant, medication side effects that make you tired, heavy, confused. But then one morning, you wake up, and the world feels quieter. You might begin to recognize the nurses' faces. You might start following conversations. You might even reflect. What happened to me? It's often devastating, because when mania ends, shame floods in. Embarrassment, regret, the realization of what you said, did, believed. Sometimes you don't remember everything. Sometimes you do. That's when the real healing begins. Being hospitalized for mania is not just about stabilization. It's about rebuilding. Trust in others. Trust in yourself. Understanding that you're not crazy. Your brain went into overdrive. And there are ways to live with that. You may now have a new diagnosis or a new medication. You may begin therapy. You may begin journaling or meeting peers in support groups. You may also have to face the consequences of your manic episode. Relationships strained, jobs lost, legal or financial issues. That part is real and painful, but you are still you. Not broken, not less. Being hospitalized isn't a failure. It's a form of survival. There are things about psychiatric hospitalization no one talks about, like how loud the unit can be at night, or how it feels to wear paper scrubs while begging for a phone call, or how much you long for a kind word, a moment of dignity, a nurse who remembers your name. And yet, there are also moments of beauty. A fellow patient teaching you to breathe through a panic attack, a group art session where you laugh for the first time in weeks, a moment of clarity staring out a tiny window, realizing you want to live. These are the parts that never make it into textbooks. Leaving the hospital can feel like freedom, or like being thrown back into the wild. Suddenly, you're responsible again. For meds, appointments, boundaries, bills. There's no nurse reminding you to eat. No structure to hold you steady. This is when support systems matter most. Therapy, peer support, family who understand, routines that ground you. You may still be processing what happened. You might feel scared it will happen again. That fear is valid, but so is your strength. Each day you choose stability, you're rewriting the story. If you love someone who's been hospitalized for mania, thank you for listening. It's not easy. It can feel like watching a stranger wear your loved one's face. You may feel helpless, angry, terrified, betrayed, but your presence matters more than you know. Listen without judgment. Learn about mania. Set boundaries, yes, but also offer compassion. Recovery is not linear. There may be relapses, but there is also growth. With your support, the person you love can rebuild their life and their self-worth. Being hospitalized for mania is one of the most intense experiences a person can have. It's terrifying, humbling, often traumatic, but it can also be the beginning of a new chapter. A place where diagnosis meets insight, where shame meets healing, where the chaos finds language and the person finds themselves again. You are not weak for needing help. You are not less for being hospitalized. You are a survivor. You are still worthy, and you are not alone. Thank you truly for mindfully listening to this episode of Bipolar Talks. These are the conversations that matter, that help us understand the lived truth behind labels. If this episode resonated with you, we'd be so grateful if you'd like, comment, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear it. And finally, a gentle reminder. This YouTube video is for informational purposes only and should not be used as a substitute for professional diagnosis or treatment. Always consult a licensed mental health expert for support tailored to your specific needs. Until next time, take care of your mind, be kind to your heart, and remember, you're doing better than you think.